What's good, everybody? Welcome to the No Level Cap podcast. I am Sage Ashford. This is the No Level Cap crew. We bring you all the anime, all the games, and none of the bullshit. We back in with another episode, and man, I knew, when we talked about, when we got this off the ground, and I was like, should we come up with a whole bunch of ideas? And y'all were kind of like, I don't know, maybe. And I thought about it. I was like, man, the news will always give us plenty, and boy, didn't it this week. We have another topic that I want to get into, but first I want to talk about this piece of news that broke over the week, the Friday or whatever. We're all aware, I think at this point, everybody knows Crunchyroll expanded thanks to Funimation, and that was supposed to be good news. Everybody thought it was going to be a big deal. Okay, they're going to combine the two biggest anime services. It's going to be great. It's like Goku and Vegeta fusing. It's going to be Vegito and, unstoppable and shit. And I mean, but that's not how it played out, or at least that's not how it's going to play out. We've already run into some bumps in the road. According to something I saw on Anime News Network, Crunchyroll is eliminating all the free ad-supporting streaming starting with the spring 2022 season. So this upcoming month, that shit over with. If you want to watch any new or continuing services, you'll have to subscribe. The way it's going to work, I believe, is you'll get to see the first 3 episodes for free. And then after that, you shit out of luck that. You just don't get anything. You got to pay for it. And to me, I feel like that was a natural result of Sony buying Crunchyroll. They took out their biggest competitor, and now they're at a point where they're like, we ain't got to give you shit. The fuck else you gonna go? You on your own? All right, if there's no need for them to give you anything free anymore, because where else are you going to go if your options are legally watching anime? You're gonna have to pay them, or you just don't watch anime, or I guess you could pirate, but that doesn't help anybody. So it's kind of crazy to see how they just took the ad supported version of it away. And I just want to get everybody's thoughts on that. Rakeem, what do you think?
Well, I think it's not that surprising if you think about it, because when you think about it, Crunchyroll is one of the few services where that was still something going on, like we've spoken about earlier with Hulu. Hulu had that kind of service in the beginning where they were free with ads, and over time they kind of streamlined that out and moved to a pay service, pay with ads, and then different types of services like that. And on top of that, it seems like streaming services overall are just getting more expensive everywhere. Netflix keeps increasing their prices. Other platforms are increasing their prices as they get more competition as well. I think it sucks because I do have several friends who use that service, that Crunchyroll service, and they're unable now to just watch the anime for free. Not everyone is financially able to just have that streaming service along with their current streaming services. And that's kind of why you have this issue with people sharing passwords that streaming services are trying to stop now. That's why this happens, because everyone can afford all these various streaming services at one time. No one's going to buy Paramount, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime. It's too much. You gotta pick and choose now. And it really sucks for the anime community, because anime in the West has probably never been more popular. So the accessibility of anime to the average person, that being free, means a lot to people, and especially younger people who don't have the financial know-how to really get involved with that process. So to me, that's kind of a bummer. The only way this could turn out to be any way positive is a theory I had is we know that Sony's about to most likely announce their new PlayStation service soon. Their new streaming gaming service, however that's going to be. And me personally, if they were smart, bundle Crunchyroll with that service. Might be an idea they might even think about. If they can do that, people might get in on it, because I've even talked to people who say, hey, if they do that, I might actually get the service. But yeah, that's what I think about it.
So you're talking about Project Spartacus, which is supposed to be announced sometime this week. That's what the rumors, that's what some of the reputable reporters have talked about, that they're going to be finally telling us what Sony's Project Spartacus is, which is going to be effectively a less effective version of Xbox Game Pass, something that kind of merges Sony PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus together. And I can kind of see where you're going with that, Keem, but what if I'm not a gamer? Or better question, what if I'm not a PlayStation gamer? Or I'll take that to another level. Even if I am a PlayStation gamer, okay, cool. But this service, from everything that we know about Project Spartacus, tells us it's gonna suck. And I'm not saying that to be mean or anything, but the gold standard, I think we can all agree, is Xbox Game Pass. I think we can all agree that that's the gold standard. And every bit of reporting that we have so far is telling us this ain't gonna be Xbox Game Pass. It's gonna be something different. Like you're not gonna get the games as they come out day and date. You probably aren't gonna get like a bunch of brand new games coming to the service. It'll be more akin to just PS Now. And I mean, like that's cool. I'm not against that as an idea, but to try to bundle that into Crunchyroll, like I don't know if that benefits everybody in the same way that it would be just to just let people come up in there and watch it free. Because I mean, like I don't know, like there are teenagers that will be getting into anime. Like you said, not everybody's able, and not everybody's parents are gonna want to like come off that. It's not a lot of money, but like not everybody's parents is gonna be like, man, $6. I already paid for your band equipment and all this other crap. I'm not paying for that. Like you on your own. Like I pay for your video games, and you want me to buy something? Like no, you on your own. And so like $6 may not seem like a lot if you're an adult, but it is. And I mean, like the other thing is, who's to say that shit gonna stay at $6? Really? Like when you really think about it, like
$6?
Is it? It might be.
Is it still $6.99 or is it more?
Is it 8?
Are we referring to Crunchyroll right now?
Yeah, Crunchyroll right now.
Yes.
Right now, what I'm paying for is $7.99. It's $8.55 with tax.
Okay, so it's
$8.
$7.99. Okay.
Yeah,
because I know
I
Verve,
mean,
because Verve is $9.99, and well, I'll talk about Verve when it gets to my turn.
Yeah, but I mean, like, okay, exactly. Like, it's $8, right? So who's to say it's gonna stay that? Netflix already crept on up to like $20. Like they like, look, if you want Netflix and you want multiple screens, we need $20 about you every month, which is absurd. Like there was a time when everybody was like $10 is the max, and you know, like they was flirting with 12 and 15 felt like the premium, and now all of a sudden, you know, they inch it on up, and I feel like Crunchyroll doing this is the first sign to let you know they're about to start charging more, and there's just no way around it. Will, how do you feel about it?
As someone who is a current subscriber to Crunchyroll and has been a previous subscriber, because I actually stayed subscribed to Crunchyroll for like maybe 2 years straight at one point, because I love the service for me being able to watch my anime. I think, just like you said, there's a price hike coming, and I hate to think of how high it may go. I'm pretty sure it won't be an extreme hike per se, like what we seeing with Netflix constantly kind of creep the price up every once in a while. But I think if this goes through, and to add on to what Keem said about it maybe going to this new service that they have, I truly don't think no one's going to win from that. And I think at most, Crunchyroll with the levels that it does has is going to be at base level, maybe $10, maybe $11 a month, I think is where it's going to land at. I don't really like that direction, honestly. I think it should stay where it's at. That's just me, though. I know I can't have things because that's, you know, that in a perfect world type thing. So I don't want to just be greedy for myself and for everyone else's sake. But for teenagers and young kids that are getting into anime, I am so sorry that y'all are about to deal with the issues that I didn't have to face, at least not right now anyways. So good luck to you, and I hope y'all don't have to sell the 7 Seas.
Hey, I think that I think there's no way around it for some fans. Like they're going to have to, like, if you don't have the money, and especially if it starts to go up in price, like all right, $8 is one thing, and a lot of parents might foot the bill for $8, but like if it goes up to 12, now I don't think it'll ever hit anywhere near whatever Netflix is charging, because it is just anime.
Yeah.
So like that's a big, and I mean I understand they're gonna start making excuses. They're gonna hit you with the same excuses that game developers are hitting you with, like, oh, you know, we charge this and that, and like we put this much money into our services, so we have to charge more now, and with all while not paying none of their animators worth the fuck. Like when they do all these Crunchyroll productions, not paying their translators at all. Like I've heard some abysmal like some nightmare stories about what Crunchyroll translators get paid, and then they're expected to turn it around like that because they need it like for simulcast. So like I don't like the idea of them all of a sudden deciding we're going to start charging you more, and I'm guaranteeing you that that's just going in certain people's pockets and it's not going into people that's doing the work's pockets. Terrence, how do you feel?
So
do your thing.
So Crunchyroll is at an interesting point right now, just because I mean the fact that they've picked up Funimation, which the fact that the two are now together, it's crazy. You know, Sony pretty much runs anime in America when it comes right down to it. Because I mean, there's High Dive, but let's be honest, they're not really a
all those are dead.
Yeah, I feel like High Dive. In fact, I think they might have been bought recently. I think maybe.
When I say dead, I don't mean like literally dead. I just mean like compared to Crunchyroll plus Funimation,
Yeah.
they got no shot.
Yeah.
They're like a distant third at best.
Yeah, very distant, extremely distant. But in terms of how I feel, I have to agree with Rakeem that I'm not surprised by this, just because, to be honest, Crunchyroll's like one of the last streaming services I can think of that has a free, had a free feature like this, because we were talking about this at the beginning of the podcast, but I'm pretty sure Hulu, when it debuted back in like the early 2010s or whenever that was, it was technically free with ads, and you could pay for the premium version that took away the ads, but they eventually changed that to where it was just you pay for the version with the ads and you pay more for the version without the ads, which is, screwed up, but hey, it is what it is. I do find it funny that Crunchyroll at least gave us the 3-episode rule, where you get 3 episodes for free, and then after that you got to pay. Oh man, but I don't know. I'll put it this way: I would like to see some improvement now that Crunchyroll and Funimation have officially combined their services together. I would like to see some improvements from Crunchyroll in regards to their app and to just their service in general, because their app on PlayStation 4, I can't speak to Xbox, PlayStation 5 or whatever, but the PS4 app, it has not changed since it's been like 5 or so years. It is the interface for that has stayed the same, and honestly,
I was gonna say, is it still that one where it's like
where you pretty much just
kind of almost like a it's almost like a digital book
where you have to scroll through.
Exactly
it hasn't changed.
Wow.
And and honestly, I talked about Verve earlier. I'm gonna bring it up now. The reason why honestly I went to Verve was not just only because it had more services at the time. Now it doesn't. Verve is almost worthless now, but because the interface was better. Like, Verve's interface is way better than Crunchyroll's, in my opinion, at least on the app. Like, I can't speak to the website or anything. I'm just specifically talking about the app for, like, consoles and everything. And now that Crunchyroll is considered the default, I would like to just see them step it up in some regards, because now you even have to change from Verve, because I recently discovered that Verve is not going to have really any more updates after this. You are going to have to strictly use Crunchyroll. Yeah, after this season, Verve I don't think is, because Funimation they've been slowly adding the Funimation library to Crunchyroll, and I checked Verve to see if it has the same updates. It's not. Yeah. All those Funimation anime, they haven't been put on Verve. So Verve, I don't think is getting the same updates as Crunchyroll. You're going to have to use Crunchyroll as your anime service from now on, which, if that's the case, so be it, but just update it to where it's on the same level as like a Netflix, a Hulu, Amazon, it's all the others. Like, if you're going to have this premium anime viewing experience and it's going to be like the only anime experience, you got to step it up. That's my answer to all this. It's like, I'm not surprised with their decision to take away the free version of it, but at the same time, if you're going to do this and if you decide to raise the price at some point, which, let's be honest, they more than likely are going to, they need to step it up. They need to make the app better, make the UI, the UX better. Yeah, Sony, if you're listening to this, you're probably not, but if you are, yeah, make it better. That's all I'm gonna say.
Look, I mean, it's a matter of time. We blowing up. We going up, Jay. But not. I mean, like, real talk. The thing you mentioned about ads is funny, because I like Hulu at first. It was like free with ads, and then it was a low tier with ads, and then a higher tier without ads. And it's interesting to me because it feels like a lot of services are starting to do that. And I have this feeling that before we know it, Crunchyroll is going to start charging like, okay, you want a cheap service? Here's this for $7, which is like not quite what it used to cost. It's like $6. It was $6. Now it's $8. They might charge you $7 for the service with ads, and then be like, oh well, if you want it without ads, come pay $11.99 or whatever, which blows. But I mean, like, it feels like ads very slowly are starting to creep back in after like a decade or so of us like basically getting rid of ads in most television services like Netflix and HBO and all these other services. They're slowly because like HBO used to never have ads, but I'm pretty sure now there's like a $8.99 version of it that specifically has ads in it.
Yeah.
And I think that sucks because I mean, like for us to have in the internet, for it to be so many services that have like just a shit ton of ads, it's just what's up.
Oh, the one thing that I was going to add is that's probably the surprising part about this is the pushback, because we're in an age now where people hate ads. So hearing that so many people use the free version of Crunchyroll is kind of surprising to me. I guess it shouldn't be, because I mean, if it's free, then why not? But I am kind of surprised that there is so much pushback against it, just because I would have figured a lot of people would have. I guess I would like to see maybe like the statistics, and I know they probably would never release that, but I guess the statistics on how many people use the free version, how many people use like the paid version.
Well, I will point this out in as a counter of sorts. I would say, if I had to guess, most people above the age of 18 probably don't use the ad version. They probably pay for it. And then but anime originally, like, we've grown up with anime, but like it's aimed at kids. Like, outside of like a handful of shows, it's supposed to be for kids. It's supposed to be 7 to 15, that type of age range. And so like I would imagine that a lot of younger kids that are like, oh, I want to watch anime, probably did use the free version. And so like I can see that being where a lot, because like there's a large portion of anime fans, we don't pay attention to them because we're adults now, and that's just not how I hope that nobody's interacting with hella kids, but like there are kids like that. There's a significant portion of the anime watching population that are really young, and those are probably the ones that are most up in arms about it.
I mean, heck, you go to a convention, you see them all the time, so yeah, I know where you're coming from. Yeah,
man, you ain't never lied.
Yeah,
I got another point.
What's up, King?
Something I thought about, like what we were talking about, is like what Terrence was talking about was a great point about how you have to. Now we're in this age where they want to take away the free version, that you're competing with Netflix as far as the quality and the UI and all that. Most anime fans who like don't use Crunchyroll probably watch, if they're like casual fans, they're watching like mainline anime on like Netflix or something their family already owns. So now, this is primarily anime for more hard people who are really into anime. Some people might be like, well, I already have these animes I watch on Netflix. Why would I pay for this service that's only anime where I can get Netflix and the anime I already watched together? So that's another thing that's kind of can be concerning for certain people. I can see that being an issue.
Overall, I'm positive that somebody, in the big wigs up there, that the number crunchers, somebody ran the numbers and was like, how many people are we gonna lose in terms of ad revenue? Like, how many people are we gonna lose? Because if you're not a part of that industry, you don't know that like they're really typically with ads, it's based off every 1,000 viewers. So like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And so they probably measured it out. How many thousands of viewers might we lose if we cut this service, versus how many will probably feel like they're forced to subscribe. And if the cost bit, like when they run that CBA, and then when they run that cost benefit analysis and figure out like, okay, we need this many people to subscribe to make up for that loss in revenue, or to make more money than what we're making right now. They probably ran the numbers, and I mean, like, it'll probably go in their favor. Like, how often do you see companies like reel that back? And I'm not saying that can't happen, because it is like, this is something that just broke, and they might try to like reel it back. Like, if there's enough backlash, people might be like, yo, I could see them within a month deciding like, okay, well, maybe we should change it. But I'm gonna be honest with you, even if they do change it back and make it like free for a little while, I don't think that would be permanent. I feel like they might change it back to being like free with ads for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden they change it right back to what they had originally planned, because they want that revenue. And ad revenue, it sucks, but like ad revenue ain't what it was in 2015. I can tell you that as somebody that works within an industry where a lot of my money and how I get paid is based off of the ad revenue that the site I work for gets. So like ad revenue ain't what it used to be. And so like it's only a matter of time whether even if they change it because of the backlash for like a season or two, that shit not permanent. Like eventually they are going to move in this direction. And I mean, it sucks, but that just is what it is. They'll probably I don't foresee any problems for Crunchyroll, because anime is just too big. Even now, it continues to grow, and it ain't like and Rakeem and Will know about this. It ain't like when WWE tried to do the WWE Network. Like, oh, you get to watch just this one specific brand of wrestling, not all the other different types of wrestling. Like, it's not that. It's not that niche. Anime is niche, but it ain't that niche. And it's like you get to watch hundreds of anime across decades. So they have 80s anime up there. They have 90s and 2000 anime up there. You can watch all these anime, hundreds of anime. So like something on there is gonna be something you like. And even if it's not all the new stuff, there will be plenty of shows that you're like, yeah, I can get with this. So, but I don't want to stick on that because we did have another topic I wanted to like. That was the original topic that we were going to cover. As we're watching Babylon's Fall stumble around and try to maintain relevance, it's worth thinking about how everybody these days seem to want to make their own games as a service. Like Babylon's Fall is yet another game that tried and fell flat on its face. When I checked on it, the Steam numbers had it at less than 1,200 players at peak. And when I checked on it about 4 hours ago, it was at 93 players. Like 93.
What was? Do you happen to know the all-time peak?
The all-time peak was 1,200.
Wow.
It was like 1193.
Bruh.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Wow.
For the record, people considered Marvel's Avengers a failure. And when I checked its peak players on Steam, it was like above 28,000. And there were like 580 people playing it. That's the failure. That was the one that everybody was like, wow, this is a bomb. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be the next Anthem. No, this is the failure. This is the one that's like, it's crazy. And I mean, like, they're not going away, it feels like. Live services, like, I do want to, before I ask everybody, I want to hit everybody with a definition because I know how people are. They see it online. Like as soon as they watch a podcast, they have they gotta have to get their opinion in. So let's get the definition out. Games as a service is any game that receives content or support beyond patches and bug fixing. I want that definition out there because otherwise we get a whole bunch of people saying dumb shit like, well, my favorite game isn't a games as a service. That's just Destiny 2 and Division. I ain't trying to hear all that shit. All right? Like your favorite game is probably games as a service. You just gotta suck it up. So I want to ask everybody, like, what game are you playing a game right now that is a games as a service? And have you do you have a favorite game that's kind of like games as a service and how you feel about like that favorite game? So Rakeem, I know right now you're playing Godfall, but is there any other like games as a service you've played and any like you like really into?
Man, so this is a great question for me because the last 2 years I have tried damn near everything but Anthem. I've played Path of Exile. I played Warframe. I played Marvel's Avengers. I played The Division 2. I played Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. So I have a very good experience with games as a service. Personally, it's a little games as a service. It's not just one game I like the most. It's like little things I like the most. Like I like the mission structure of The Division. I like the combat of Destiny. I like the characters of the story of Marvel's Avengers. And right now, the combat of Godfall has my attention. Because like when games of service like came into the scene, I think what we as gamers, when we first saw it, we were kind of misunderstood what they were going for. We thought it was like, okay, this is like RPGs or like really detailed content with like hella upgrades, basically like new age MMOs. And they're kind of like that, but they're almost like experiments. Like they give you the concept of the game, and then they kind of define what the game becomes with the updates. So like Destiny 1, when it came out, a lot of people remember I was not a big fan of its release, although a lot of my friends were. But as that game continued, it started defining and becoming more of its own thing, defining its content and defining its identity over time. And that's kind of what game service is. It's like creating a concept from your game and then defining more of its identity as the game comes out. Now, there are definitely games that have done this way better. I would say Warframe is a great example of that. Like every time I come into Warframe, it's like almost a whole new game. They have open world sections now. They've had flight combat, these things, all these updates. And it's been going on for 10 years. And it's amazing that some games can get these longer shelf lives of 5, 6, 7, 8 to 10 years continuous updates. So personally, I would say I have a little special spot for a couple of different games. I'm really liking Godfall right now, as Sage mentioned, because I just really like the combat. The story is kind of iffy. The pacing in the world isn't that great, but the combat is so good, I don't care. I just really like how the game feels and how it functions with the loot and combination like that. As far as like in relation to Babylon's Fall, I think when I first saw Babylon's Fall, it's one of those things where like game of service is now a bad word. It's become a stigma of a game type for most gamers now because we have been burned so many times. Like I got burned by Outriders when I first got that. I was so excited for Outriders, and then the game crashed 4 times for me in 1 hour and disconnected like 15 times. I was done with the game. Um, so when I saw Babylon's Fall, I was like, I think the consensus of the game, because this is what I felt in my soul. I was like, you're not going to get me again. It's not going to happen again. I know the signs now. I know what to look for. I've seen this story again and again. I can tell when something's quality a little bit more, when someone puts some effort into something, and when you give me some BS. I saw it out the gate with that game. And it's sad that like that the concept is kind of crapped on now because I think it can work. We've seen it work with other games, like the ones I gave, for example, like Destiny's still around. It hasn't gone anywhere. Warframe's been around for damn near 10 years. Path of Exile is a game people freaking love. That's a game as a service. It is Diablo as a service, essentially. But with Babylon's Fall and like Square Enix right now, it's like they kind of something's not clicking with like the content they want to create, the kind of service they want to create, and like with gamers, it's not clicking with them. And if they really want to make this game of service thing work and make it like really the game of service that people really want to stick to, they got to go back to the drawing board and then introduce something that people either a new concept in the gameplay department or a new way to hook people to playing it consecutively outside the norms. And there's no excuse for it anymore because there's so many different examples of games as a service. You've seen the mistakes. There's been so many mistakes over and over again. You know what not to do. You know what fails. You know what doesn't work, and you know what works. There's too many examples now. So as far as a game of service, I don't have a problem with it. I think it can work. I have seen it work, and I have enjoyed game of service games. But as far as like things like what happened with Babylon's Fall and Square Enix's approach, I think they need to go back to the drawing board and try something different.
It's there's another hope behind you, but all right, Terrence, how do you feel about games as a service, man? Like, do you have like a favorite? Like, I know you like because like fighting games count, right? So like, is there like a favorite fighting game you feel like they kind of nailed it?
Yeah, so that's exactly the angle that I was going to take with this is as a fighting gamer over like this past decade, pretty much these games have evolved to being like games as a service. One of the big ones that did it and failed at launch but has gotten better over time is Street Fighter V. When Street Fighter V launched, that launch was abysmal. The game came out and the online was barely functional. And the thing is, it was such a minuscule package in terms of like what you got. You had online ranked, you had online casual matches, you had offline versus, and then you had survival mode. That was like your only way of doing like
that was
any
their
kind of
esports thing.
That was their only way of
like,
doing.
We just need esports in, and we'll make money off that.
Yeah, that was their only way of doing any form of single player content was just the survival mode. And yeah, you're right. That was without getting too deep into it. That was kind of like their esports approach, and it failed for them. Like the game didn't do poorly, but it didn't live up to the Street Fighter brand, the expectations that people had for the Street Fighter brand. And Capcom had to do a lot of damage control to kind of get things back to where they are now in terms of people like kind of liking the game. It took them, let's see, Street Fighter V came out in 2016 and now it's 2022. After 5 seasons, we're 6 years later, it's just gotten to the point where people actually can respect Street Fighter V just because they've done so much to it. Really, it wasn't until Arcade Edition where the game actually added arcade mode that people were like, oh, okay, well, maybe now check it out. You know, I guess that kind of falls into the whole idea where people have, well, I'll just wait till the Game of the Year edition comes out. And that's kind of what a lot of people did for Street Fighter V. They waited until Arcade Edition or Champion Edition to finally pick up the game when Capcom finally made it good to play. But yeah, from the fighting game angle of things, games as a service has been a thing for a long time now. One of the first fighting games to do it well was Killer Instinct on the Xbox One. When it came out, it was treated as an Xbox Live arcade title, and it rotated the free-to-play characters that you could play. Like, I don't know like how often the rotation was, but
they did every week.
Every week, okay. Well, they used to
Uh,
rotate the characters every week that you could play. Granted, the roster did start off kind of small. It's like what, like 6 or 8
Six.
yeah,
characters?
6 or 7
It's
characters.
six.
Yeah, 6 characters, and then they gradually added to it, and they expanded the game with every season. It just got better and better. So that was a
Mhm.
success for Microsoft, like a very understated success for them. Definitely would love to see Killer Instinct come back, and there's been rumors of it, but I won't get into that. And pretty much every fighting game since that era, since like the Killer Instinct, Street Fighter V era, has pretty much become a games as a service in a way, just because they have season passes, they have patches, they add costumes, they add everything to it now. Like there's not a single fighting game out right now that doesn't have like some kind of season pass or some kind of stuff that they toss in there later after launch. In terms of what's my favorite, probably right now it would have to be King of Fighters, and it just came out in February, but right now SNK has been doing a damn good job in terms of the updates they've been giving to the game. The recent DLC team that they came out with, Team Garo, they're really good. They all seem really well fleshed out and polished characters. And then the fact that they're adding free DLC with Omega Rugal coming out next month, that's amazing. And he has like his own little boss mode where if you beat the computer, you get these rewards. That's awesome. Guilty Gear Strive is doing well too. Their season pass, it has a lot of stuff in it. So I'm no stranger to games as a service. I don't think it's going anywhere, but at the same time, I still think that it feels my problem with game as a service is that sometimes, and this is the mistake I think Street Fighter V made, is that sometimes they focus on the model of games as a service more than the actual game itself. It's like they put the model, like it's like putting the cart before the horse, and instead of like making a good game first and then slowly tailoring that around the games as a service model. It's like, okay, we're gonna make this game games as a service. Okay, like how do we maximize the profits for this? Oh, and let's the little game part of it, we'll focus on that too, but how can we squeeze the most coins that we can out of the players? And that's the wrong approach in my opinion, is that if you're going to make a good game, and I know this has been a hot topic in the FGC, the fighting game community, is instead of making a game esports, make it a good game first and let the esports scene come afterwards. And I think the same thing needs to be done with games as a service. It's like, make the game good first, something that people actually want to play and are willing to shell out cash for, and then you can kind of focus on how you can make the model of games as a service better. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, so one of the things that I wasn't sure how I was gonna fit this in, but like you kind of went into a lot of interesting directions, and it made me think, especially the last part of your talk. Like the thing that made me think the most was like, okay, look, the biggest problem I'm gonna have with games as a service is the lack of content. Like Rakeem was there, like when me and him we got into Destiny 1, Destiny Vanilla Destiny as they call it, and I was pissed. Like, because they sold it as this big epic RPG. Like when it first came out, like when they first showed it off at E3 and all of that, they sold it as like this big epic space adventure RPG, and I was like all in. I'm like, I hate first person, but I'll give it a shot. There's nothing else like this on the market, so I'll try it. But like when you play it, you're finished in like 12 hours at best. It's like, okay, I was looking for a grand epic. I was looking to go to a bunch of different planets, meet a whole bunch of different characters, and none of that. We got none of that. And I'm like, what? Like, what's happening? Like, and that, I feel like that's the big problem, because like over time they would drip feed out content. They came out with the Moon Below and was it the Taken King and all of that.
House of
and it's
Wolves.
like, and yeah, and the House of Wolves. Right. Those were the things that helped expand on Vanilla Destiny and make it into more of a game than what it was. And so like I was like, all right, cool. But this should have been in the game at launch, because it didn't feel like enough content at launch. And the game that I've played the most, as far as, well, I've played two games as a service that a lot of. I played Genshin Impact and I played Marvel's Avengers. And Marvel's Avengers is the game that I have the most problem with, because it does things the wrong way. And it is kind of what you said, as far as like, Terrence, when you talk about they went for, we're going to make it a service game first, and they didn't make a good game. They saved too much content. Like, so much of the game, like, I remember when the trailer for Spider-Man launched, and I looked at it and I said, these are all the characters that should have been in the game day one. Like it was showing off like the Hawkeyes and Black Panther and Spider-Man, and I'm like, yeah, that looks like a full Avengers roster. Like you tried to sell us a game with 5 characters in it and was like, come off $60. And I understand like all the new characters are free, but like that's not good enough for me. Like that's like I need a bunch of content to justify the fact that you charge $15 for a fucking skin. And I don't understand like and that's the thing that kills every live service game if you don't have enough content. Genshin Impact, for all of its flaws, and I may get into that a little bit later, for all of its flaws, Genshin Impact, every 6 weeks, like clockwork, they're going to have new content for you. They're going to have new characters that you can pull, which sucks, but like I said, flaws, we'll get into them later. They're going to have new characters you can pull. They're going to have new bosses for you to fight, new enemies. A lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times they're going to have new quests. And definitely they're going to have new areas for you to go to, big, gigantic, sprawling spaces for you to explore. And Avengers, if you're not a part of the Avengers community, you may not know, they're like the fans are still waiting on a roadmap for like the year 2 of content. And year 1 was barely anything to talk about. Like it was barely anything to write home about. So it's wild for them to come out and be like 3 months into 2022, there's still no roadmap. And like that's the thing that will kill any live service. Like if there's no reason for me to come back every week at least, I need a reason to log in every week and play this game other than half price skins and double XP. Like it's only 10 characters in that bitch and 9 if you ain't got it on PlayStation. So eventually double XP, I'm gonna max out all my characters, I'm gonna max out all their power levels, and there's nothing left for me to do. I guess I can grind it out in the raid that they put in at the end of last year, but like if I'm not a big multiplayer fan, if I just wanted to play it by myself, what am I gonna do? Like I have no interest in this raid, so I have nothing. Like I'm just sitting there, as I like to say, holding dick in my hand because I got nothing else to do. Like I'm just sitting there doing nothing, and it's a waste. And that's the thing that's gonna kill Babylon's Fall if they can't figure it out. You need new content every. I don't want to put a specific time frame on it, but 4 to 8 weeks. If I gotta put a timeline on it, 4 to 8 weeks. That's ideal. Like you gotta have something. You can't just be out here like, we don't know what we're doing. So, but anyway, Will, what games as a service have you played? I think I remember you being a big Dead by Daylight fan, which is definitely games as a service.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about games as a service in the industry right now?
Well, first off, before I start listing my things, I wanted to point out on a point that both you and Keem talked about with Babylon's Fall. I want to address that real quick. There has been rumors that they are trying to put in a crossover with Nier Automata, so you can already imagine what they're going to put into that game. They're trying to pull off from one fan base to get this game to fill up. And if you know what the big point of Nier Automata is, then you know exactly what might come up in that. But what are you going to say, Sage?
I was just gonna say, that's not really a surprise. Games as a service, they all live off of it's. And I hate to be this negative about it, but they're all kind of parasitic in nature. They're always feeding off of something else's relevance to keep themselves relevant. Like Call of Duty, they just randomly put in like fucking Rambo and a couple other guys last year. This year they got Attack on Titan and shit. Like they're all like, you say what?
Genshin Impact had Aloy for no reason.
For no reason. Like they all do that. Like they all pull from something else to try to remain relevant. So I'm not surprised about this Nier thing.
Yeah. So, but for me, for games as a service, like you said, I was once upon a time a huge Dead by Daylight fan, and if I was looking at my PlayStation trophies and whatnot right now, I think I got about a little over close to about 3,000 hours into that game. I played that game a ton with my friends because I got it for free on PlayStation Plus. That's one, and also like Terrence, where I played a lot of Street Fighter. I burned myself out in that game because I played it for 2 years straight. Like it was one of my main games I consistently played, and it burned me the hell out. I got tired of it. And another game that I do play that y'all should know I play is Apex Legends. That right there is one of my favorites. Love it to death.
I remember last week we were having problems. We were having technical difficulties setting up. And this man, while Terrence was setting things up and getting everything ready, this man was just playing Apex. We can hear him doing call-outs in the background. This man is definitely an Apex fan to the core, bro.
And like I love Apex Legends to an extent because I started playing it when it first came out. Like they just kind of like wet fart dropped it. Like they were just like, oh, it was coming out when today, huh? That's how they did that game. They just kind of
Around
was
the
like,
Super Bowl or something, right?
yeah, they just put it out there. Like we knew it was coming, but we didn't know when, and then they just released it and didn't say a word, no fanfare, no nothing.
Shadow
And
drop.
yeah, so I played it for a while at that point, but I didn't play it a lot because I didn't like it. But then I came back to it like a couple seasons back. We're on season 12 right now, and
Mm-hmm.
it being the game as a service that I play a lot, I like it. But my problem is coming in because they're having so much turmoil with their developer Respawn and EA with them two button heads and a lot of those people from Respawn leaving. EA is at the helm now. So with EA being at the helm, you know
What?
what that means? Yes, EA is being at the helm of Apex Legends right now. So a lot of stuff is coming out. But the problem is with it is that they're constantly putting out skins, and that means more money is being put into this game to buy those skins. And the other thing is that they along with those skins, about every 3 months without fail, because that's how long a season lasts, I think, in Apex, every 3 months. New character, new abilities, maybe a new gun, and some skins. All of that falls in line. Like it's right there. Like they want you to buy packs and buy skins. So that's the other part about games as a service I kind of want to throw in there. A lot of games have packs, which allow you to like get a random assortment of items. And with Apex, it's 3 items every pack. And
Wait,
it's a
hold
lot
on.
of
Are they still doing loot crates?
yes.
Jesus Christ! What?
But the way and but so what's so funny is that
Why?
they have and there's even an in-game currency that you don't have to necessarily buy. Like there's one in-game currency that's free. You get it by leveling up. But then there's the other in-game currency, Apex coins. You pay for that.
You
And you
know,
use that. Go ahead, go ahead.
that's interesting that you bring that up because I was
Mhm.
gonna ask how y'all feel about like how it feels like some of them get kind of extra greedy. Like one of the things I was gonna say about Genshin Impact was like there's like 50 different currencies. There's only really one premium currency, but like there's 50 different currencies, and it feels like it's built to like confuse you, have you kind of lost.
Mhm.
You don't know what the fuck is going on. You don't know what you're looking at, what you need at any given time. And I don't know, like that's one of the bigger problems I have with it. And then the other thing is because you brought up loot chests in Apex, which I did not know was a thing, and then
Mhm.
Genshin. And I dropped Genshin for a lot of reasons. Both of them are big flaws to me that I feel are in the games as a service industry. I dropped Genshin Impact 1 because it had something like loot crates, like the whole pity system where you got to pull on a character for like 90 times and then you got a 50-50 chance of getting him. But don't worry. If you pull another 90 fucking times, you'll actually get the character for sure. Like, that shit was gross. And then the other thing that pissed me off was like, I could see what it looked like. Well, two more things, I guess. I could see what it looked like when a person who spent a shit ton of money on the game played the game and it just looked like a completely different game. Like the work that they were putting in versus the work that I put in was just not, they weren't equivalent. Like I was out there busting my ass to get through certain like mini dungeons and shit. And they were just like going through and chaining like certain attacks of their 5-star characters. And they were in and out of that bitch in like what would take me 2.5 minutes took them 15 seconds. And I'm like, okay, well that's
Pay to
fucking
win.
trash. And then
Pay
the
to
other
win.
thing, it's not necessarily pay to win because it's not a competition, but it is kind of like it's pay to make it easier for sure. And then the
Yeah.
last thing that all games as a service I feel have that makes me a little sick, and the only ones that kind of get off the hook I feel are fighting games. So Terrence I guess is in the clear, but like everybody else, if you play anything else, you probably fucked. All games as a service are way too fucking grindy. Like they all have, it's nowhere near enough content. Like the only thing, oh, you know what? There's MMOs aren't as grindy. They're still pretty grindy, but like there's tons of side quests and shit you can do as opposed to
Yeah.
like, hey, run this same dungeon over and over and over and over ad nauseum until you
The
just
end
want to
game.
fucking vomit and you've memorized every piece of treasure on the map and the map is damn near randomized, but you still know where to go. Like that type shit. And all to get like a very small return. Like that shit is
Mhm.
kind of gross to me. Like, and I guess that's the thing I was gonna ask. Like, what's the thing that annoys y'all the most about games as a service? Like, Rakeem, what's up? What's up? What's the thing that gets you the most?
So Will bringing up Apex made me realize I had suppressed what the game I actually played the most was as game as a service. I never thought of it as game as a service, but it is Paladins. I played the
Mhm.
dog shit out of Paladins for 5 years straight. And then most recently, the last year, I got a group of friends together. I played more Paladins than I ever played in my life. And what annoyed me about that game and why I'm not playing it right now, I got all of our friends, was that Paladins was in a really unique space where like every time, every few years, they kept trying to reinvent the wheel and figure out how to monetize better, how to structure the game differently. And they
They get a little
didn't
bit more
stick
money
to
out your pocket.
that, and they just couldn't stick to one vision. I don't know if I think the teams changed and things like that. So they've tried literally everything. They've done the card systems where you put in money for cards. They've tried loot boxes. They've done the season pass. They've done in-game currency. They've had all these things simultaneously. With pushback from the community, they had to dial back some of those systems, but they're still there. What annoyed me about it was clear that like they they kind of lost the plot of their own game. Like they kind of got it to a good spot and they felt like they had to reinvent the wheel over and over again so they could monetize even more. And now here's a problem that's happening in some gaming services that, like we were talking about with skins, with Paladins, it has an issue where it's been around so long and the code is so old, the game is starting to become a buggy mess. It's starting to have a lot of issues starting to break down. It's an older game. And instead of focusing on fixing those bugs, there's still new content coming out. There's still new skins coming out. That's what they're prioritizing.
Gotta
And
get more money, baby.
and there's fans literally on their hands and knees like, please, bug fixes, bug fixes. And I think it's gotten to the point where they can do bug fixes, but they can't fix everything. It's impossible now. The game's just too old. They'd have to make Paladins 2 or something. So that annoys me sometimes. Is like you can tell the game could have some really visible flaws that many people know about, but they just can't get fixed because their game as a service structure, they can't break it or they'll end up losing revenue. Because every time, if you notice, every time a game as a service has a new update, a new character, a new level, expansion, that is when game interest goes back up and peaks. Every game has an area where they start high, they peak out, they start declining. That's a natural progression of the game over time.
Yeah.
But when you have an update and the news cycle that goes around that and the information goes around that, that's when games peak. And that's why, like you were talking about, having a consistent cycle of that can keep people coming back over and over and over and over and over again. And developers know about this. So they will prioritize getting those updates out over fixing issues with the game or making the overall game better in quality. And that's something that annoys me about games as service.
Yeah, I noticed that you do have, and then like that's a problem with just about every games as a service title, really, when you think about it. Eventually the coding gets out of control. I don't think that, because coding is incredibly difficult. Like,
Of course.
I've done very little of it, and I've like at the base level, and I'm still like my head hurts, right? And I think everybody, if you've taken a coding class at some point, you're like, you probably had that same sensation of like, this is a lot. And that was just the basic shit that they teach you at like, intro to Visual Basic or intro to like, I don't know, like intro to programming or some shit like that. Like you learn that and you're like, what the fuck? And like, it gets more complex. And sometimes I think these games aren't necessarily built to last and to keep adding on content for like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I mean, hats off to some place like I'm not gonna say for sure because I don't know if Warframe has those issues or not because I'm not a Warframe guy. I don't think so. I've never really heard that from them. But if not, like hats off to them for figuring it out, like to make their code, I guess, modular enough that they could add to it pretty consistently. Hats off to them on that one. Terrence is there. Like, I know you talked a little bit about the things that bug you about the MT, like microtransaction shit like that. Is there anything else that like really sticks out at you? I know for me, like one thing I hate is when a game is like fully priced and they still trying to like nickel and dime you.
That's actually what I was going to talk about. So you predicted my movement, Sage. No, but you mentioned like fighting games not having like an issue in like certain games as a service regards. There are some issues, and there's a couple of examples I can bring up. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, when it came out in 2020, it was definitely an ill-timed release just because of the pandemic and its issues with its netcode and everything. But I won't get into that because this isn't a fighting game podcast. But the problem
you watch Input Output for that, people. My sister podcast, check that out.
Yeah, Great do point. That. No, but with Grand Blue, one of the big problems that it had is that the game would never go on sale, like just the base game. And then they would charge out the wazoo for the season pass. Okay, the first season pass was $29.99, I mean $30. We'll just round $30. So you get
in the game 40?
Game 60.
The game was 60, man.
Yeah, the game was yeah.
Typically Arc System Works games were like 40 or whatever.
No, they're 60. Like
no, they're full
60.
price.
Like Grand Blue is 60.
They
Guilty
put
Gear
5
60.
characters in that bitch. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, they got a lot of nerve.
Yeah, but so they gave so Grand Blue starting roster was I think 11 characters, and then technically, let's see, with the season pass it added 5 characters, and so it brought the number up to 16. One of the characters was technically, I guess you couldn't unlock them, but they were like the final boss, but for whatever reason they weren't included in the whatever. I'm not going to go into it. But then they did season 2, which season 1 was over after it ended maybe like July or August of that year. I can't remember. But then they started season 2 in like October of that same year. So, most fighting games, it's like they have a season that kind of lasts the entire year. And then the next year they go into the next season and so on and so forth. In Grand Blue's case, they pretty much started 2 seasons within the same year. And then when they started that second season pass was $35. So you had, and it had, to be fair, it had 6 characters in it. I'm pretty sure it had 6 characters in it, but still, like stages, colors, and stuff like that, that was locked behind another paywall, where stages, you had to buy them on their own. They weren't part of the season pass, and like colors weren't part of the season pass.
Exactly.
And so Grand Blue just got really expensive, because you have this $60 game, you had the $30 season pass, so that brings it up to $90. Then you have the $35 season pass, that brings it up to $125. In just a year, you've paid over $100 for one game just to keep up with, the scene. Because let's be honest, in order to keep up with the competitive aspect of fighting games, you have to buy these passes.
You gotta have everything.
You have to have these characters to play against them, and so when you play them online, you're not like totally baffled as to who the heck am I playing against. Another game that really kind of screwed the pooch at times was Tekken 7. Tekken 7, and really, The only thing that they really messed up that people really got heated over was when they tried to charge for
the Ultimate Edition.
That too, but that's not what I'm thinking of. When they charged for frame data, that's what it is. They try to charge for frame data.
Got that.
Yeah, they were trying to charge for frame data as part of the season pass. Yeah. Well, they ended up lowering it to $3 because initially it was more.
Oh, it was
4
or 5.
Yeah, wasn't it part of the season pass?
No,
then they made it like separate.
I don't think it was. I think it's separate, but it was on the season pass. You had to get the season pass to get the frame data thing, training mode.
Yeah.
And then they separated it and made it like $4.
That's what it was. Yeah. It was part of the season pass, and they got so much pushback against that they decided to make it separate and made it like $3.99, which you're charging for a basic feature at that point. And yeah, I'm calling frame data a basic feature. All fighting games from now on should have frame data, and because people have been asking for it. Competitive players use that to get better. It's like part of the game. So why fighting games now still don't have that as a basic feature is beyond me. But yeah, those are 2 examples that come to mind for me from the fighting game scene. Is Grand Blue. It was just really expensive, and they just released like a couple of months ago. They released a like an ultimate, or like pretty much like an ultimate edition, where it includes the season 1. Season 2 is pretty much up to date, and they took the price down to I think $40, and they just did that. That's 2 years later. It's like, it's kind of too late, but I mean,
they're like 3 games down now. Like, what?
Yeah, so it's like, yeah. And then Tekken 7, them, Bandai Namco, they were trying to line their pockets, trying to charge us for features that should have been in the game to begin with, or features they should just add for free. So yeah, fighting games are definitely. They try their best to get away with stuff like this, where they'll charge us out the wazoo for season passes and charge us for basic features. But the FGC is pretty good about pushing back against it. But at the same time, there's some stuff that these companies do that we kind of just have to hold the L on, unless we just continue to call them out on it.
And I exposed you. I exposed myself like I'm a FGC poser. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you're
I don't.
good.
I follow. I try to follow as much gaming news as possible. But if I'm not really in that culture, there's certain things that I'm not necessarily like some nuances that I might miss. I apologize,
No, you're good. No,
our
you're good.
viewers. If you see
you
this,
fine,
you
bro.
like, yeah, I knew he was a poser. Like, you right. I'm a poser. My bad.
Hey, look,
That's
all
outside
good,
of
Sage.
fighting games, I don't really have any other like games as a service to bring up. So hey, I'm a poser too. So
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, I will ask a question of y'all, and y'all can, think about it. And when I, get to you, like, let me know. Do y'all feel like at a certain point it's better to just bring out a new game, or do you just prefer to have like updates like every year, kind of like Street Fighter did every season? Like every year there was a new season and they added characters. Because I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, y'all know him, over there at Input Output Trell, when I was talking to him on Twitter, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't like the like after a certain point, it feels like I'm paying for a brand new video game." And I mean, like, I kind of understand it on one side, but on the other, I'm like, wouldn't you just want the additional features and for them to keep working on games? Because see, here's the thing: I feel like people don't realize, it's not like it was really better back in the late '90s and early 2000s. Like, here's the thing: all that time we spent all that time going back and having like we have the rose colored glasses, and we act like every game we got was a complete product. Not all of them were like that.
No.
Like one thing, sometimes you just got a bad product and it was just ass. I'm sorry, it was just ass. Like you got it, it sucked, and you just have to hold that and hope that the next installment in that game series was good, or that killed the game series and it was dead. Or it was like fighting games where they would release a game and it'd have 16 characters or 20 characters on the disc, and they release a revision and you got to go buy the revision, and it's basically the same fucking game, but they added, 6 to 8 characters. Okay, cool. So like, I don't know that it was really better back then. Like, does anybody see where I'm coming from? Like, as far as like,
I think I get it.
yeah,
do
I
you
get
feel
it
like
too.
they would, like, I don't know, like this idea that everything was better is weird. And so when people say things like, I don't think it's a good idea to just keep charging for new content, I'm like, yeah, but like, I don't necessarily know that we need a Street Fighter or I'm struggling to think of a really Call of Duty. I don't know that you need a new one every generation, and if you do, I don't know that you need one every year. Like, am I wrong with that? Like, am I out of line?
I don't think
You
so.
are not out of line with that, man. I agree with you.
Like,
Flat
I don't understand. Like, I understand you don't want to spend too much money, and the stuff that Terrence was talking about with Grand Blue, that's outrageous. Like, especially in such a short period of time, because it's not like that game was out. Like, it'd be one thing if it was like, yeah, every year we're gonna add another $20, $25 season pass like Street Fighter did. That's one thing. But for like $40, like twice, and making it cost like effectively, you bought 2 games in the span of 2 years. It's the same fucking game. They was out of pocket. Our system works.
Yeah, and I want to click. Well, that's more likely
There's
side
more
games.
side games.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but
You
I just,
think?
Sticking to the gotcha game roots.
yeah,
No,
no,
but
but
Yeah, but like Arc System Works frequently will release games at least, and then again, this is the very little that I know, but like it feels like Arc System Works will frequently release a game that's like, here's 11 characters, and then we're gonna release like an extra 6, and we're gonna charge like $30-$40 for that shit, and then we'll release another 6. Like, am I wrong? Like, am I tripping?
Okay, now Arx is a little notorious for doing something kind of like that. I mean, my example from them is Blaze Blue, because I'm gonna be honest with you, that game comes out with a ton of characters, all story related. But if there is a DLC character or DLC characters, those characters are liable to cost you anywhere between $8 to $10 a pop
yeah,
to get them.
yeah,
So I'm just kind of like, but what I hate is that they'll put one of those DLC characters you can get from the story. But 9 times out of 10, if you play Blaze Blue and you haven't been keeping up with the story, why are you going to play the story to go get that character? And most of the time, that character is top tier and busted. So
I mean, that would be why you played it. Okay, I got one last question, and I guess I want to. Well, I got 2 really. So now we'll just roll it into one. Are gamers being unrealistic, asking for like live services to go away? Like, I feel like, because like, I don't think they're going anywhere. Like, PlayStation is considered like the top tier. They're making the big prestige $60 cinematic single player fucking event like that. They're the safe haven for and they about to release 10 multiplayer games, live service games over the next 5 years. They said they wanted at least 10 up by 2026. So like I don't think they're going anywhere. I think that's something that we as an industry are just gonna have to live with unless you want to become a retro gamer, which at this point means you plan everything up to PS3 because retro just continues to just keep adding. So like I don't know. I feel like there's no way away from them, and the best you can do is stay on the developer. Well, I won't say developers, publishers. We'll stay on the publisher's neck and be like, look, you can't release a game in this broken ass state and expect you to pay for it. Mm-hmm. You can't release a game with like no content and then drip feed me that content over the next few months and years and shit like that. That shit is whack. It's not real. It's not authentic. But I like. I did that for you, Keem. But like, I don't buy it. Like, I don't think that we can just get away from it. Like, am I wrong? Like, Rakeem, you see where I'm coming from on that one?
I totally understand where you're coming from. I think gamers, like you said, they kind of have a nostalgia feel for it, especially people who grew up with the single player mindset. I think multiplayer gamers, they've kind of transitioned into the game of service era a lot easier than we did. Because almost all multiplayer games are like that now, where they're getting added content, they're getting season passes, they're getting like shooters are changed. Halo just recently, although that didn't go very well. Halo just recently kind of transitioned to that model. Call of Duty did Warzone. Warzone was a huge success for them. I don't even know why they're releasing new Call of Duty. They could just focus on Warzone. You've been straight.
They smacked into a brick wall. That's why they actually have a popularity problem themselves.
Okay. But yeah, it is kind of unrealistic because we can't underestimate the power of how much of that machine of like, this almost goes back to the days of like when mobile games started really getting popular and making so much revenue, and gamers companies were trying to get in on that money. That's still going on. They're still trying to reach like what mobile games are doing, like Clash of Clans was doing a few years ago. And if they feel like they can get more money that way in that model, but they don't have the stigma of the phone game, they're going to go for it. Although, as we can all tell, that stigma is kind of changing. Like, it's kind of starting to feel like how we did about like Clash of Clans and mobile gaming towards console gaming now, because there's so many elements that are combining together. But at the same time, we do have to keep our companies accountable. That's why like things like roadmaps have to be consistent. The games I gravitate towards now are games that have very, very, very public community service and good roadmaps. I'm playing Godfall. If you guys remember, Godfall did not have a great reception. However, those developers are extremely vocal. They talk to their community, and every 3 to 4 months, update. No excuses, nothing. 3 to 4 months, update. Got to update next week. Update. Added new content, more in-game content, this and that. It makes it a lot easier to palpate the mistakes when people are actively trying to fix them and make them better. And then we have the example, of course, like No Man's Sky, which revolutionized itself in the course of a couple of years. Remember how that launch was. So I think we can't just be completely pessimistic with the game as service model, because there are so many examples of games that are doing well and thriving in that model and gamers seem to like. I just think we just have to be more open-minded about that as gamers. But at the same time, we still have to keep those companies accountable to not give us BS. If Square Enix doesn't get the message by now, I don't know what else is going to happen. How many games got to fail? How much money you got to lose before you get the message? Like, that's the biggest message. If you don't want to play,
they got Final Fantasy 12 and that motherfucker hit. Yeah, I'm right. Yeah, as long as 14, right?
14.
Yeah, 14. As long as they got 14 and that motherfucker hit, they'll keep trying with them live service games and fuck it up. I'm telling you, like, anytime you got so many people trying to buy your shit that you telling them, look, you can't buy this even digitally. Like, god damn, that's a lot of people playing your shit. So like, they got that cushion. They willing to just keep fucking up.
Man, but at least if you're gonna fuck up to success. Don't just fuck down. Don't fuck up and go down. Learn from your last fuck up and build on it. Don't fuck up, then fuck down. You feel me? Don't fuck up, then fuck down.
It makes sense in only a way that Rakeem could make sense, but yeah.
All right. And with that, I'm done with that topic.
I do have a couple of things, like you made me think of a couple of things, like with as far as like the stigma that mobile games have, it's kind of shifted, right? Like the first off, mobile games are expensive now. Like the age of cheap mobile games is done. And I could do a topic. We could do a topic on that, but like to keep it short right now, a couple of years ago, we started seeing more, like maybe 2017, 2018, you started seeing more and more expensive mobile games, and those were the only ones that were really drawing any revenue. And so, like, the same kind of feature creep and graphics creep that happened in regular console games, it came to mobile games. And now you, like, if you notice, it ain't too many of them Clash of Clan looking ass games. Like, that shit, damn near gone. A lot of games that kind of look like, what's the one that every goddamn podcast host and every goddamn YouTuber got? There's a
Raid Shadow
sponsor.
Legends.
Raid Shadow Legends.
That shit don't look half bad. Like, it don't look great, but it don't look half bad for a mobile game. And like at this stage, people, when they say something looks like a mobile game, they're really talking about Fortnite. Like, I don't know if y'all seen it. Like, anytime a game kind of emulates Fortnite, they be like, oh, that mobile bullshit, that mobile Fortnite bullshit. Like, that's where that criticism is shifted from, you know, the old school Farmville, Clash of Clans, that type shit. It shifted to Fortnite. That's really kind of what happened. And another thing you said, another live service game that I really did not give enough credit to while I was talking was No Man's Sky. I fucking love that game. Like, I run out of stuff to do in it frequently, but I always wind up coming back to it because it's just such a massive, like, when they first showed it off, I was like hype. I was like, oh shit, this looks great. And I found out it was first person, and y'all know me. I said first person, I'll fuck that shit. So I ditched it. But like eventually they kept adding and kept adding and kept adding and kept adding. And you know, along the way they added a third person view mode and a whole bunch of other shit. And I came to it in 2020 and dumped like 30 hours on it. And then bought it again on PC because I bought it on PlayStation 4. And I bought it again on PC and I've dumped another 60 to 80 hours on it. Like, that game, that's another game that kind of like understood the mission. Like, it fucked up at first, and then it took its time and started adding content to the point that you see people now going like, man, y'all can stop. Like, I understand, like, you was trying to make, like, we get it. You was sorry. Like, we understand. You ain't got to do it no more. Like, they kind of feel bad for like Hello Games. They're like, bro, like, this update, what? 40? And all the updates are free. Like, you pay for the base game. It goes on sale a lot. You pay for the base game, you know, 60 if you pay for the full game, but like it's on sale at 40 and 30 a lot. You can get it for $30 in every update they get, like the expeditions, which are kind of like story based. That shit's free. The big updates that add, like, you know, more geometry and all that other shit that I don't understand and make a procedural game work. They add more of that. Like, they constantly adding new enemies, new combat, new effects, graphical effects and shit like that. That's the way to do it. Like, that really is the method. And they really don't have any kind of microtransactions. So that's I did want to, like, it's kind of related to the current question, but I just wanted to shout them out just because they did such a great job. Anyway, Will, how do you feel? Like, are gamers being unrealistic, asking for service games to go away? Because, like, if Sony getting into it, I feel like they ain't going nowhere.
I agree with you on that. If Sony is getting into this whole games as a service thing, gamers ask for it to go away is not happening. It's going to be years before it finally decides it wants to fall off the cliff, and it's just not going to happen. So this is how a lot of people make their money, honestly, at this point with games as a service. Like I told y'all, with how EA is pretty much taking over the helm of Apex, and all that money they trying to make now, just constantly putting out skins and whatnot to get that money. That stuff is going to stay. Same thing with, well, another game we didn't mention, because King mentioned Paladins. What about its Blizzard cousin Overwatch? That is still sitting around. That second game hasn't seen the light of day since they've done some testing. And
that's supposed to come out this year?
Supposedly. I think that's next year. They lying to us. That game is not ready to come out because of so many issues they had.
Since I remember when Blizzard was on top of the world, and this is a very brief side, but I just wanted to say, I remember when Blizzard was like fucking undefeated, on top of the world, StarCraft and Diablo and all that shit. Overwatch came out and destroyed the clone that wasn't really like it, but everybody thought it was like it and all the other shit.
Oh yeah, the Gearbox game.
Yeah, the Gearbox game. Like, I remember when Overwatch was just like this unstoppable fucking juggernaut of a game that took advantage of the hero shooter genre, and pretty much like that was, well, that and Apex kind of put the end to like the period at the end of the hero shooter idea. Like, after that, it was kind of like we kind of done with this. Maybe Valorant, maybe.
Yeah, Valorant.
Yeah.
Valorant's definitely picked
Valorant.
up steam. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, no, it's popular, but I'm saying, does that fall into like the hero shooter
Definitely.
genre?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like that. Those, but like you kind of like after a while you start to see them taper off because like Overwatch came in and was like, no, there is nothing else. This is it. And so like it's crazy to see how quickly they fell off. And that's what happens when you don't have many IP to rely on. Like if you rely on one or two, maybe three IP, and you just kind of like try to, oh, I'm gonna sell these couple IP, and we have such a massive ravenous fan base, we just gonna be alright. It's like, yeah, you alright until the motherfuckers fall through. Like you need as many as possible. Ideally, you want to be like Square. Oh, what's
Not
up,
just
King?
that. Not just that, but like, if anybody who's played any Blizzard game, because I play Diablo and Overwatch, and if they have a extremely long period of time between releases, because at least back in the day, Blizzard now, I can't speak for that because there's a lot of stuff going on right now. There are a lot of changes, business and whatever. Back in the day, they had such a hard set quality control department. That game had to be damn near flawless before it saw the light of day. That was the standard. That's how they did it. That's why the games were never really talked about being super buggy like Ubisoft games were at the time. That shit had to be picture perfect. It had to be, it had to look a certain way. It was like Disney, like the Disney of video games. It had to look a certain way, had to have a vibe to it. The culture it kind of fit into that culture, how it went to the multiplayer game, stuff like that, seamlessness to it. And that's why, that long period of time between releases in this day and age does not work anymore. You can't be going 5-6 years without the next sequel to a game unless you Rockstar.
Well, a couple of things. First off, hopefully Blizzard can get its fucking act together when Microsoft buys them and clear out some of these disgusting, toxic workplace conditions and shit. Because that shit, every time I see a news post about it, I'm like, man, how did y'all make this last this long and get away with this bullshit? And then the second thing is, I think you can go a long period of time between releases, but you need to have you can go have a long period of time between releases in one IP. But what you can't do is only have one IP or maybe two IPs, and then they're all you don't have something coming out every 2 years. It ain't necessarily got to be the same IP. It can be different IPs like Square or like Ubisoft, and then like every other year we got something else coming out. Like every other year, Ubisoft has another Far Cry come out. You can do that. What you can't do is like 7 years between your games. That shit not gonna work. People are gonna forget about you. But Terrence, how do you feel? Do you feel gamers are being unrealistic, asking for service games to go away? I feel like it's kind of over with for that. But can they put lightning in the bottle? Can they capture lightning? Well, not lightning in the bottle. Can they put the cat back into the bag? Because I feel like it's over with now.
The moment the season pass became a thing, we left that. It ain't. We're not going back. At this point,
that was PS3 era.
Yeah, really? I was saying we're not going back. Yeah. I mean, the moment DLC became a thing, and the moment the moment that the horse armor, when DLC became a thing, it created this snowball that's just been slowly going down the hill, gaining traction, and just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We went from the horse armor in was that Morrowind?
Yes.
Yeah, in Morrowind.
No, it's Oblivion.
Yeah, Oblivion. Yeah, Oblivion. Yeah.
Holy shit, that's really far back.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's back, boy.
We went from horse armor to season passes to now we have just full on games as a service, and who knows what the next thing.
The battle pass now.
Yeah, who knows? Oh Lord, battle passes. Who knows what the next thing is going to be? But yeah, it's asking to get a new game. Anybody who's honestly asking to get a new game every year, kind of like the Madden or the Call of Duty model, it's games are just too expensive now to develop. To me asking that, okay, instead of getting season passes, can we get a new Street Fighter every year? That's crazy, because not only are they having to start from scratch on every new game, they're having to kind of reinvent themselves every time. Because Street Fighter 6 has to be different from 5, 7 different from 6, and so on and so forth. So asking for something like that every year, or even every other year, it's just... At this point, it's just too much. Yeah, it's just preposterous. It's too much. So
when you design games in to be seen with 4K resolution and shit like that, it takes way too long to design those models. Yeah. And the thing is, especially with fighting games, and I don't think there are too many people asking for fighting games every year. I think most fighting game fans are comfortable with every season or something like that. But I do think some people are just addicted to the idea of being like Sony, where every 3 years you get a new game, but it ain't every 3 years really. Like it takes a long time to come out with a new video game. Like because like you think about how long it takes to make a new IP. Like it took Horizon. Horizon came out. Horizon started development in 2011 and didn't come out until the start of 2017. That's the kind of dev time that you're talking about, and that shit's only going to get longer as we go along. But even when you talk about like games like Capcom fighting games, I feel like they reused a lot of IPs. Like they reused a lot of sprites back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah,
So-
definitely. I mean, games were infamous for that back. I mean, Marvel 2 was totally infamous for that in terms of reusing
That was
sprites.
just a big asset dump.
Heck, Morgan
Basically moving.
Morgan for years had the same old
Morgan-
sprite that was
Mor-
used across multiple games, and it wasn't until I think Tatsunoko versus Capcom where they did
Where she got a new look.
Yeah, when she got a new look. So yeah, like we're not gonna get like these yearly updates for certain games anymore. It's like it's much better for them to put out a product and just continue to add on to it for that generation or whenever they want to stop, and then move on from there. Asking for like a yearly update, I feel like it's going to lead to burnout, not only on the developer front, but on the gamer front. It's like you're expecting like a new product every single year. Well, I don't know how Madden fans do it, to be honest, like how they buy the same damn game every single. We know you
game,
know.
I mean, like, I don't know why they buy. Actually, as far as like why EA makes one, I think the NFL makes them do that. I think they would prefer because, like, if you didn't know, actually, minor bit of news that I mean we wouldn't have talked about because we're not really sports fans, but I believe it just came out that EA is about to drop the FIFA name.
Whoa!
Like FIFA was asking them for too much money. Like a lot of things go into like games like that. Like in the case of FIFA, they asked for like an increase on how much they were going to be paid. I think they wanted, instead of 1 billion, they wanted 2 billion. And EA was like, how about we not pay you that? Because they have to go make the deals individually with every football club. Like they have to go and talk to Man City and Man U and all the motherfuckers. I'm not gonna pretend like I know about sports, but I just wanted to give a couple examples. Well, I know about soccer. I just want to give a couple examples, but like they have to go make deals with each individual team, and so like the FIFA name, the only thing that gets them is the title FIFA on the cover and access to the World Cup, and that motherfucker only comes around every 4 years. So there's a rumor that the next FIFA or the one after that is gonna be like just called EA Football Club, and that's it. And like that's because like a lot of these games they kind of force you, like, look, we gotta come out with like the NFL, NBA, all the motherfuckers just kind of make you come out with a new game every year instead of just doing updates. What's up, Will?
Just to throw a little fun fact out there, did you know that on the current cover of FIFA 22 right now, the player on the cover is Kylian Mbappe? That's who it is. He was on the last year's cover too for the next gen systems. But did you know that on the cover of 22, that's not actually him on the cover? That's his render in game.
Oh. That's kind of impressive though, like when you think about it.
Yeah,
it is impressive. But I think it was because of like, I think it had to do with something with some money, or if not, it had to do with the pandemic, and he couldn't make it to that, so they had to do that there to put him on the cover.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. But yeah, I mean, like I guess that like as far as like how people go pay for them, that one you got me on. Like I don't know what leads people to buy, like especially knowing those games are glitchy as shit. I don't know what would make you just go buy a new game every year. Like just buy a good one.
I know what does it is, and this is not me being stereotypical and calling people out, but it's literally a thing of, I think it's because it's so easy to hop into. It's simply, I go buy the game, I put it in my system, I get whatever update needs to be done, and I can just hop in and play. Cause I'm gonna give a quick GameStop story, y'all, just to let y'all know that y'all watching. I work at GameStop and see all types of shit. So had a guy come in, he was looking for an anime game. Sure, let me help you out. He didn't know, but then guess what case he picked up on the PlayStation 4 wall? And you won't believe what he picked up. He picked up Tales of Arise, and he was almost 100% sure that was the game he was looking for. But when he came in talking, he was like, I got all them Call of Duties, I got all them 2Ks. I was like, oh, you sticking out like a sore thumb in front of me right now. And you was picking up Tales of Arise. As soon as I told him they had a story, he put it down. I was like, yeah, I know you weren't playing this. Get out the store.
He wanted an anime game.
He wanted an anime game. He didn't want a story. That's what he didn't want.
I guess that means he wanted a fighter?
He should have got Demon Slayer.
Yeah, but we didn't have a copy.
He should have gotten Captain Tsubasa. That's where he should have gotten.
He might want to Captain Tsubasa.
Yeah, but that's my little quick story. Had a man come in, knew what he wanted, picked up Tales of Arise, and as soon as I said, "Hey, look, you got to pay attention to this. This is a story game. This is the RPG." Back on the shelf. I was like, "Yeah, get back. This ain't for you."
Anybody got any closing thoughts on the live service industry? Like, what's up? Like, anybody got anything?
If I had
I
to
want to
say
take
so,
that as a. You say what, Will?
I said if I had to say so, this stuff ain't ending anytime soon. So for people who wanted to stop, shut your mouth and pay up. That's what they want you to do.
Come off of it.
I'm definitely not gonna tell anybody to shut their mouth and pay up. I'm gonna say just don't, like, if you don't want a game, just don't come off it. Like, it just you can always like embrace like using your willpower. There are games that are gonna appeal to you that aren't gonna be like such obvious cash grabs. Just go get those.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not always gonna be. But if you expecting the games as a service model to go away, I'm sorry, it's not. Like the only way you can, because like most people have too little willpower and too much money. Like that's what it's gonna come down to. It's too much money in their pockets and they ain't got no willpower. They can't help themselves. So they gonna spend the money. They gonna spend it because they got it. Like, oh, it's $30. Oh man, these companies trash, and while they telling you how trash the company is, they pulling out their credit card. Someone says, yeah, it's trash. Like, what? Damn it! You see exactly. They everybody got that fry beam. You know, take my money and shit. Like, no, bro. Like, put your money in your pocket. I understand. You can do that every now and again. Like with Gotham Knights, like that's the game that I'm most excited about coming out this year. Just because I'm a big fan, not of Batman, but of the Bat family, like Robin and Nightwing and them. I'm such a big fan that if there's a DLC season pass type thing, I might get that. If that costs me $100, so be it. That's like a dream game for me. But if it's not approaching dream game levels, put your money back in your pocket. Go buy something else. Buy a used game. Like if you're worried about a game coming out too hot, and by hot I mean like, you know, they put it out like as soon as they can get it to hit gold, even though it's buggy as shit, and the day one patch is gonna fix 70% of what's wrong with it, and it's still gonna be fucked up. Like, buy something else. Buy something that's been out a while. Buy something on sale. Don't spend $760 and it's soon to be $70 when you ain't got to. Like, that's just nonsense.
Yeah, or wait.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
hey, like look at Cyberpunk. I mean, if you waited, now is the time to buy the game, and the game's like, what, you buy like, probably like $20.
Yeah, it's $20 the most.
Don't get me started on Cyberpunk.
Look, I'm gonna be honest
that game's
with you.
still not fixed to me, and it probably won't be. Like, it's still just gonna be futuristic.
It'll be fixed in 2077. That's when it'll be fixed.
Look, I ain't gonna lie to you. You could pick it up.
77.
You could pick it up right now, but if you could have picked it up during the holidays, I mean, you could have got it new for 10.
I mean,
that's a lot.
You keep waiting, you probably can still get it new for 10. But all right, I think that's gonna wrap up this week's show. If you like this, I have 3 things I want you to do. I want you to subscribe to us on YouTube. I want you to tell your friends, and I want you to have an amazing week. Peace.
And hit that like button.
God damn it.
And follow us on Twitter.